Alright guys, Mr. G here with Battletech 2018, and if you're like me, you bought this game because 90% of the things you want to do are tinkering with giant death bots. So let's get to it and let's take a peek at the Mechbay and see what kind of toys and things we can fiddle with in there. Alright, your Mechbay is going to have a few sections. It's going to have number one where you have your bays and you can unlock more to get more mechs. It's going to have storage, which is where all of your salvaged mechs end up. Now, interesting thing about Battletech is you have to collect 3 parts of a mech before you can actually build that mech. And if you want to sell a mech, you actually have to move it to storage first before you can sell it. That lovely little button right here. This particular button here is just to scrap a mech for C-bills. Don't recommend doing that. Probably go for storage. And then lastly, you can see all of your weapons and equipment right here under components. Now the most important thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want to fiddle with the refit screen, which is where we're going to tweak our mechs to make them do what we want to do. In here you're going to see something that's pretty familiar if you've played any MechWarrior game ever and you haven't been under a rock this entire time. Well, if you're new to Battletech, you're like, hey, what's this? You're going to have your head, center torso, legs, right and left torsos, and right and left arms. And we're going to talk about where you should put things and why you should put them there and why you shouldn't. So the first thing you want to do when you're looking at your mech is look at what hard points it's going to have. You can have hard points in either ballistic, energy, missile, or support. So looking at this mech, we can see that it is pretty good for ballistics and pretty good for missiles. So we're probably going to want to combine some sort of build like that with this mech. So you can see here we've got SRMs here and we've got an AC2 here. So I can strip these components off. They're going to end up down there in dismount. I can also edit undo by hitting this button. I can also decide, hey, maybe I want to strip all the equipment and I just want to start from scratch and build this thing, which is not a bad idea. Sometimes it's nice just to start all the way from scratch. Well, let's jump over here and let's look at the different kinds of weapons you can use in MechWarrior. By MechWarrior, I mean Battletech 2018. Okay, so we've got ballistic weapons, which are really handy in that they don't generate a ton of heat. They are a bummer in that they're a little heavier in tonnage, and they're going to require ammo, which can blow up. Energy weapons. These are nice in that they're pretty light, low tonnage weapons, and you can see all of those stats right here. You can see heat, damage, tonnage, etc., even the cost if you just hover over the weapon. But they're going to make a lot of heat, especially the PPC, which is just a wonderful long-range weapon. Next, we've got missiles. These are pretty similar to ballistics, but they're going to generate a little bit more heat, but they don't take a lot of space. And lastly, we have support weapons like MGs and a tiny little laser. And then over here we have equipment, which is basically heat sinks and jump jets for me right now, as far into the campaign as I am. So let's say we wanted to go ahead and work on this mech. Well, we know that maybe it needs some ballistics weapons and maybe some missile weapons. All right, let's take a look here. We can see which sections of the mech have which hard points. So we're going to stick this AC5 somewhere that has a decent armor. We'll put it over here on this left torso. Now we're going to need some ammo. We can put some ammo down here in the legs, which was always a good move in MechWarrior Online. Because if your ammo explodes, you're likely to lose that part. And you don't want a chain reaction explosion happening on your mech or you're going to have a really bad day. Now let's take a peek at missile weapons. What do we got here? We got some SRMs, we got some LRMs. Well, AC5 is kind of a medium range. We'll go ahead and see what we can get done with an SRM here. And we'll put a little SRM ammo. Nothing in this arm important. We'll put that ammo over there. There's no hard points. Nothing we've got to worry about right there. Okay, lastly, we've got, what do we got left over? We're running low on tonnage. We've got no heat sinks. So we've got to make sure that we go grab some heat sinks because we don't want this thing to overheat. Let's go ahead and put some of those in our torso. Actually, let's do center torso. We don't have anything in there just yet. And you know what, maybe even one in the head, because we're probably pretty unlikely to get hit in the head. Now we have some extra tonnage. If I had more heat sinks, I would absolutely use them, which I need to go to the store and grab some. But since we don't right now, we'll just get away with what we can get away with, and we will slap some jump jets. We'll just stick them here in the torso. We got a little extra tonnage. The last thing you're going to want to fiddle with in this game is armor. I prefer to run more armor in the front and less in the legs and the rear. That's how I did in MechWarrior Online. If you're facing your back to the enemy, you're doing it wrong. You want to always be front end facing your enemy. We got a little left over. We'll go ahead and stick that on the legs. Dun, 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 dun. and then max this out. We can actually just hit this max armor button, and it'll really handy use up the rest of your tonnage. Now when we're done, we just hit confirm, take a look at the costs, hit confirm, and we've just refitted our mech. Now granted, that mech was fine before. I probably didn't need to go ahead and refit it, but we did that for the sake of the video. If you're new to the MechWarrior Battletech universe and you enjoyed this, hit that like and subscribe button. If you're thinking, hey, Mr. G, you should have done this to your mech, please let me know in the comments. That's it for this one. Mr. G out.